Hey guys, today's video is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, we're going to start off with some Black Ops 2 gameplay, but towards the end of the video, I have included some World at War gameplay. And if you've never seen World at War, if you've never played it, we're playing War on Outskirts. And that game mode is basically Call of Duty's version of a Battlefield type game mode, I would say. So it's a lot of fun. It's something that we haven't played in a while, and for the topic of today's commentary, I wanted to talk about how these Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 ports are the last chance for Call of Duty. The reason why I say this is Call of Duty's last chance, and the reason why I think the majority of us agree with that, is because the people who say Call of Duty is dead always get countered by the people still playing the games, right? All of the people who still play the current titles, they will indicate that the player count has to be 0 in order for the game to die, and that's just not true. When we say that, when we say Call of Duty is dead, we are comparing the millions and millions of players on the Xbox 360 and the PS3 and comparing that to what is basically a non-existent concurrent player count and monthly active users that drop year over year, specifically 50% last year. So when we compare the games overall, it's basically dead. And the disingenuous current fan base that Call of Duty has will always say it's not dead, it's not dead. Well, they don't realize they like posts from the developer studios that average like 4K likes a tweet. That is not the position that Call of Duty should be in with a budget that has, $700 million for a game, $600 million for Black Ops 6. Those types of games should not be getting 4 to 5K likes on a post regarding their updates on their content. So whenever people say Call of Duty is not dead, how can you look at their interaction numbers and not think otherwise? Just because they release a trailer that gets ad views does not mean people are genuinely interested in the games. And like I said, the reason why these ports are Call of Duty's last chance is because something very rare has happened that Activision doesn't do often, and that is release other titles alongside the current Call of Duty title. The last time that we saw that was 10 years ago, as I mentioned in my previous commentaries. So the fact that we have reached the point where Activision is now pushing when it comes to shoving, I don't understand why people actually back then didn't really think Call of Duty was dead. It was 100% dying, and now with the release of Black Ops 7, which was the final nail in the coffin, Call of Duty was dead. It's been dead for a while. I don't understand why people kept saying it needs to reach a 0 concurrent player count. That's not something that would ever happen. I don't even think games from 20 years ago have a 0 concurrent player count. There's going to be at least, 2, 3 players still on the game. The only Call of Duty I could think of that's really dead in the sense of you cannot find one match with one person online is probably Advanced Warfare on the Xbox. I remember trying to queue up for some games to get for my channel, and I would just sit there in the queue for hours. Not one person would be able to queue up. So I'm not sure if there is something wrong with the matchmaking. So the only COD that I can think of that is dead in the sense of a 0 player count is Advanced Warfare. Now, whenever we have said Call of Duty is dead, Call of Duty is dying, the last 4 to 5 years, back then, everybody who still plays the current titles and buys them year over year says, Call of Duty will never die, you're just hating. Call of Duty will have to kill itself. Well, how did that work out for you? You putting all of your faith in Activision to get it right, how did that work out for you? Okay, because even the people who are excited about the ports are pessimistic about something. Okay, they're pessimistic about something, and they're not enthusiastic about everything. And the modern current Call of Duty player base, their brains have been conditioned to accept the games that they've gotten over the last 7 years. The classic Call of Duty player, our brains don't work like that. We just don't function like that. We don't want to buy this yearly garbage slop just because it has Call of Duty in the title. And some of the current gen players couldn't understand that concept, but the fact that the games got so bad and it forced them to quit, whether they liked the game or not, it brought us here into this position where Activision boxed themselves in, and now they don't have to just cater to the player base that's giving them microtransactions because now the sales aren't there enough. So even though the microtransactions are there for the people that buy the game, if not enough people buy the game year over year, you're not going to make enough money when it comes to the microtransactions, which is why we're getting these ports. This is what I mean by it's Call of Duty's last chance. Nobody is saying that their bottom line is going to go to zero. Nobody is saying that the player count is going to go to zero. But in the sense that it is the last chance to generate hype, to capture the classic audience that you once had, I'm talking about 20 years ago. The audience that you had 10 years ago is still there. And we're not chasing that high that we had because gaming was peak or life was good. These were just good games. These were just good games. Arguably, they released during the peak of gaming, right? We had GTA, Halo, Gears of War, Call of Duty, all of that, Battlefield, all of that was brewing all at the same time. So you could argue, yeah, we were in the peak of gaming, but the games themselves were actually good. It wasn't because they were good times. And that is the reason why we're getting these ports. Call of Duty sees an opportunity to capture the player base that will probably permanently leave within the next 2 to 3 years. So, like I said, when it comes to being the last chance for us, in the sense of, a populated classic Call of Duty, this is it. This is it. This is the last chance for us to get into a good classic Call of Duty game that's populated. Whether the current gen players take the opportunity to do that, that remains to be seen. But for us specifically, it is our last chance. And, whether it's Activision's last chance to win us back, I'm not sure. But when it comes to actually playing these old titles, this is it. I feel like this is it. Maybe if they, like I said, remaster a Modern Warfare or they port the Modern Warfare series over to the PlayStation, maybe that's something that we'll get in the future. But this is rare. We only get something alongside another Call of Duty maybe once every 10 years. So obviously, there is something going on at Activision, and this is the final chance to win back that player base, I feel like. They have come to terms with that. They saw us give them time and time again, chance after chance, and now that they see that the games are not selling anymore, they probably want to win us back. So let me know what you guys think down below. I do think it's an interesting angle to look at, considering how bad the franchise has fallen to the depths of hell, really. It's sad to see how far they've fallen, but let's see if they could pick themselves back up. All of the current gen players, you can keep hating on the ports all you want, but we'll be on this in July. You could keep playing Black Ops 7 and MW4. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.